7:03 p.m. Las Vegas time, Tupac Shakur passed away, y'all.
Trouble-plagued rapper and actor Tupac Shakur is dead at the age of 25.
Rap star Tupac Shakur died last night after a brief life in a rough business.
Shakur was shot 4 times after leaving the Mike Tyson boxing match in Las Vegas in a car driven by Marion Suge Knight, the head of his label, Death Row Records.
The murder of rapper Tupac Shakur remains one of the most sensational and mysterious crimes in music history. At the height of his career, the 25-year-old rapper and actor was gunned down in the middle of the Las Vegas Strip, a killing that sent shockwaves far beyond the hip-hop world. Decades later, the case still haunts fans and investigators alike. Despite ongoing developments, the truth behind Tupac's death remains elusive. Even after an arrest was made in connection with the murder in the fall of 2023, investigators continue to search for definitive answers. It's possible that the full story may never come to light because those who know exactly what happened on the night of September 6, 1996, have chosen to remain silent. What is undeniable is that Tupac's meteoric rise to fame also brought powerful enemies. His death sits at the intersection of the darker side of the American rap scene marked by violent rivalries, deep-rooted gang conflict between the East and West Coasts, and explosive feuds with fellow artists. In a world where music, street politics, and ego collided, those tensions may have ultimately led to a fatal end.
The East Coast don't love Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Death Row. Y'all don't love us.
Any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, and don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
What does Shakur mean?
Okay, it means, I was named after this Inca chief from South America whose name was Tupac Amaru, but it's a lot of people named Tupac Amaru. It's like a whole tribe named Tupac Amaru. So my mom named me after this Inca chief, and I think the tribal breakdown means like intelligent warrior, something like that. But
I see.
He's a deep dude.
Tupac Amaru Shakur was born on June 16, 1971. He and his half-sister were raised by their single mother, Afeni Shakur. Although there was a stepfather in Tupac's life, he was later sentenced to 60 years in prison for bank robbery, leaving Afeni to raise the children largely on her own. Both Afeni and Tupac's stepfather were active members of the Black Panther Party, a movement that fought for black empowerment and promoted socialist ideals. However, their political activism often placed them in direct conflict with the law. During the early months of her pregnancy with Tupac, Afeni Shakur was incarcerated. She was accused of plotting a bomb attack in connection with Black Panther activities and spent several months in prison before eventually giving birth to Tupac in New York. Although she was later acquitted, the experience left a lasting mark on the family's life. Tupac, his mother, and his half-sister lived in modest circumstances before eventually relocating to Baltimore. It was there that Tupac experienced what he would later describe as the happiest period of his childhood. His new environment gave him access to culture and artistic expression in ways he had never known before. His high school placed a strong emphasis on the arts, allowing Tupac to explore poetry, ballet, theater, and, increasingly, rap music. This creative awakening shaped the foundation of his future career. In a rare interview from that time, Tupac reflected on his childhood with remarkable insight. He was just 17 years old when the interview was recorded, already showing the depth, intelligence, and self-awareness that would later define his legacy.
Actually, I think it's, well, okay, from my mother's point, well, if you grew up happy, too happy, you know, like in fairy tale land, not fairy tale, I mean, if you grew up where, you know, every Christmas you got a present and every birthday you got a present and every holiday was a holiday and everything was peachy, your parents took care of everything and you just grew up. I don't think that prepares you for the world. You know, my mother had a really bad childhood and my father had a bad childhood and I had a bad childhood, but I love my childhood. Even though it was bad, I love it. I feel like it's taught me so much. And I feel like nothing can faze me. You know, nothing in this world, nothing can surprise me.
But just a few months after that recording, Tupac's life took a dramatic turn. In 1988, his family moved once again, this time to the Bay Area near San Francisco. Looking back years later, Tupac would admit that this was a moment he began to lose his footing. The creative freedom and artistic support he had found in Baltimore was suddenly gone to in their place came a far harsher reality. Stripped of the environment that allowed him to express himself through art, Tupac was once again surrounded by struggle, instability, and the unforgiving pressures of street life. The innocence and inspiration of his earlier years faded quickly, replaced by challenges that would shape both the man and the music he would later create.
I wanted to go to college. I went to school all the way and was ready to go to college. The only thing that stopped me was money. The time all the kids in my school was writing applications to go to college, I didn't have no lights and no electricity.
At this point, Tupac's mother, Afeni, was struggling with a severe drug addiction, a battle that deeply strained her relationship with her son. Her regular use of crack cocaine pulled her further into hardship, and the stability Tupac once knew continued to collapse. As a result, daily life for the family became increasingly difficult. As a teenager, Tupac found himself drawn into the same harsh environment surrounding him. Despite resenting his mother's addiction, he began making money through small-scale drug dealing and started associating with dangerous and unreliable people. Survival, rather than ambition, became the driving force behind his actions. The family's reality now stood in sharp contrast to the almost idyllic life Tupac had experienced in Baltimore, marking another painful turning point in his journey.
Little Italy, little everything. They don't have a little Africa. They got the ghetto, and we think that that's ours. That's not even ours. That's just what was left over.
At the same time, Tupac gradually began to gain a foothold in the music industry. What had started as a casual interest in rap quickly grew into a true passion. Hip-hop allowed him to combine two of his other loves, dance and writing rhymes, into a single, powerful form of expression. Tupac didn't just have undeniable talent. He also had a rare ability to connect with people and build valuable relationships within the industry. Although his early performances were small and mostly limited to local clubs, Tupac stood out immediately. His stage presence, raw energy, and natural charisma set him apart from other young artists. In 1991, his ambition and skill finally paid off when he became a background dancer for the rap group Digital Underground. Soon after, he began contributing verses to the group's songs, marking the discovery of a talent that would later become one of the greatest rappers of all time. That same year, Tupac signed a record deal with Interscope Records, a major label that released his debut album. From that moment on, his rise was meteoric. The album achieved major success, leading to non-stop performances and opening doors far beyond music. Tupac soon began appearing in feature films, launching a parallel acting career alongside his work as a rapper. Over the following years, Tupac sold millions of records and evolved from an artist into a cultural icon. His influence extended far beyond hip-hop. He helped shape popular culture itself. In his lyrics, Tupac confronted his troubled past while also addressing political and social issues that resonated deeply with young listeners and much of the black community. To many, he captured the spirit of his generation. While critics such as then Vice President Dan Quayle condemned his music, the controversy only fueled his growing popularity. Nearly every rapper who has come after him has, consciously or not, been influenced by Tupac's work. As his career flourished, Tupac's personal life also began to improve. His mother, Afeni Shakur, successfully completed a detox program, and their relationship grew stronger than ever. By his early 20s, Tupac was not only enjoying massive professional success, but also rebuilding a close bond with his mother. In 1996, he fell in love with Kid Ada Jones, and the two soon became engaged, but fame carried a darker side. Tupac never fully escaped the violence of his upbringing. Time and again, he made headlines for confrontations, threats, and physical altercations, reminders that despite his success, the struggles of his past were never far behind.
Two sides to Tupac, the wonderful side and the not so wonderful.
In 1992, a confrontation erupted during an autograph session at a music festival. According to reports, Tupac pulled out a firearm during the scuffle but dropped it in the chaos. A shot was fired. The gun, which was registered in Tupac's name, was legally owned by him at the same time. Roughly 90 meters away from the festival grounds, a 6-year-old boy was playing in the schoolyard. That day, the child was struck in the forehead by a bullet and died from a wound. Investigators were later able to match the bullet to the firearm Tupac had been carrying, though a witness who was present at the scene later reflected on the incident in a 2017 interview, recalling the confusion and panic of that momentous event that would become one of the most tragic and controversial episodes of Tupac's life.
Terrible, and I felt even worse because it was the first time I seen Pac cry since we was kids.
Oh, he cried?
Yeah.
All of you were questioned by the police, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
But they ultimately never found who did it.
Nope.
But Pac sort of got the blame for it.
Of course. I think he got sued.
Tupac later claimed that the fatal shot in the 1992 incident was fired accidentally by someone from his entourage while picking the gun up from the ground. His stepbrother briefly came under suspicion, but investigators were unable to prove his involvement, making it impossible to bring charges. This was followed by a civil lawsuit filed by the family of the 6-year-old boy. In 1995, Tupac reached a settlement, paying the family a six-figure sum in damages. In 1993, Tupac was arrested again, this time for allegedly shooting at two plainclothes police officers. The circumstances surrounding the incident remain disputed. Some accounts claim Tupac acted in self-defense, while others argue that he was the first to draw his weapon after a heated confrontation. The officers themselves later contradicted one another in their statements. Ultimately, both sides agreed to drop the charges, and the case was dismissed. In November 1994, Tupac was seriously wounded in a shooting that would later be seen as a turning point in his life. The incident occurred 2 years before his death at Quad Recording Studios in Times Square, New York City. As Tupac entered the building, armed assailants ambushed him. He was struck by 5 bullets but survived. Remarkably, just 5 hours after undergoing emergency surgery, Tupac left the hospital against medical advice. Seated in a wheelchair at interviews the following year, Tupac claimed the attack had been a setup. He publicly accused producer Sean Puff Daddy Combs and fellow rapper the Notorious B.I.G., also known as Biggie Smalls, alleging that they had prior knowledge of the planned attack. Recalling the incident later, Tupac described the moment in vivid detail. He said he fell to the ground, telling himself to play dead, but the attackers continued kicking and beating him. He emphasized that he never begged or spoke. He remained completely silent. In February 1995, Tupac faced another major legal battle when he was charged with raping a female fan. He was ultimately acquitted of rape but convicted of sexual assault and sentenced to prison. After serving 9 months, he was released on a $1.4 million bail. The payment was made by Suge Knight, the powerful head of Death Row Records. In exchange, Tupac agreed to release 3 albums under Death Row, effectively ending his relationship with Interscope Records, a label that had launched his career. This shift marked a defining moment, one that would profoundly influence the final chapter of his life. On September 7, 1996, Tupac attended a highly anticipated boxing match at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, located in the heart of the city's famous Strip. That night, Mike Tyson faced Bruce Seldon, drawing massive attention. Tupac was seated ringside alongside Suge Knight. Also present were his fiancée, Kid Ada Jones, and several members of his entourage. By early afternoon, crowds had already begun gathering outside the MGM Grand, not only fans of boxing legend Mike Tyson, but also admirers hoping to catch a glimpse of Tupac. Word had spread that he would be attending the fight. Earlier that day, Tupac spent time at a casino, where he reportedly won a large sum of money. When the match finally began, it was over, quickly setting the stage for the events that would follow. Later that night, Mike Tyson defeated Bruce Seldon in just 109 seconds. By around 8:30 p.m., spectators began pouring out of the MGM Grand and onto the Las Vegas Strip. Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight were among those leaving the arena. However, at approximately 8:50 p.m., events took a violent turn inside the casino lobby. Tupac, Suge Knight, and members of their entourage became involved in a physical altercation with members of the Southside Compton Crips. The confrontation was reportedly rooted in long-standing gang tensions. Suge Knight was closely associated with the mob Piru Bloods, longtime rivals of the Southside Compton Crips. While accounts of what sparked the fight vary, several reports suggest that a man informed Tupac that Crips member Orlando Anderson had previously stolen a Death Row Records chain from someone in Tupac's entourage. That accusation allegedly led Tupac to confront Anderson directly, triggering a brawl involving members from both sides. Video footage from the evening clearly shows Tupac and Suge Knight actively participating in the fight. Other sources claim the conflict stemmed from an earlier incident in which someone from Suge Knight's circle had been assaulted weeks before. According to these accounts, that encounter was pointed out to Tupac, who then initiated the confrontation in the MGM Grand Lobby. Shortly after 9 p.m., Tupac and Suge Knight finally left the casino. They returned briefly to the hotel where Tupac was staying with his fiancée, Kid Ada Jones, and his cousin. There, Tupac changed clothes for the rest of the night and excitedly recounted the fight, proudly comparing his own actions to Mike Tyson's aggression in the ring earlier that evening. The two then prepared to attend an after-party at Club 662, a venue owned by Suge Knight, where Tupac was scheduled to perform later that night. Tupac and Suge Knight got into Knight's BMW. Tupac's bodyguard attempted to join them but was stopped. Tupac instructed him to follow in a second vehicle, explaining that he and Suge needed to talk privately. At the time, Tupac was reportedly considering leaving Death Row Records, despite the deal that had secured his release from prison. At approximately 11 p.m., Suge Knight was briefly stopped at a police checkpoint. The music blasting from the car was excessively loud, and the BMW had no license plates. Despite this, officers allowed the vehicle to continue. Just minutes later, at around 11:15 p.m., the events that would become one of the most infamous murders in modern history began to unfold. Tupac and Suge Knight stopped at a red light on Flamingo Road. A car carrying several young women pulled up on the passenger side. They briefly spoke with Tupac before driving away. Moments later, a white Cadillac pulled up alongside Suge Knight's BMW. Inside that car sat Tupac Shakur's killer. Gunfire erupted. A total of 13 shots were fired into the vehicle. 4 bullets struck Tupac, 2 of them in the chest. Suge Knight was hit by shrapnel in the head but remained conscious. The attack lasted only seconds before the white Cadillac sped away. Suge Knight made a U-turn and drove west on Flamingo Road, eventually stopping near Harmon Avenue. Police officers and emergency responders arrived at the scene around 11:20 p.m. One officer later recalled opening the passenger door, only for the critically wounded Tupac to fall out of the car. He was still conscious, but it was